part 3 of Khudadad and his brothers. We got cut off quite unusually. Charlie sort of walked on one of the keys on the laptop, but it's not the keys that normally cut us off, but it blipped off, so we had half an hour left to go. And then I thought, well, I'll go and light the Hanukkah candles for the 6th night of Hanukkah. I've posted a video of that. Happened while I was filming, actually. Had poltergeist activity. The shamash that we used to light the other candles from literally jumped out of its socket and fell on the table, and the candle that was in it fell on the floor. And at first I thought, oh, just the candle fell down, but no, the whole thing jumped out of its setting, and there's no explanation for that. I tried to sort of gloss it over because I was embarrassed, but it's a poltergeist. No physical hands were touching it to make it jump out of its candelabra. And I've had a lot of spiritual activities since the day before Jackie arrived, which I think was the 22nd or 23rd of December. So I'm officially starting to freak out. I may have to smudge and cleanse this entire house and garden and perimeter of the fence. It's unusual to have this much activity on a almost daily basis. Although, to be fair, nothing happened the last couple of days. But yeah, this morning I woke up in a very strange, euphoric, heightened, hypomanic state. And I put that down to only having 3 hours sleep in total. I had 2 hours and then I called an hour later on in the morning. But I'm just tired. But being that tired doesn't normally make me really high and euphoric. So I knew there was some kind of manifestation of something around. But yeah, tonight we got on video while I was filming me saying the bracha, the blessing for lighting the candles. It's on video, the shamash jumping out of the Hanukkah. So I'm a little bit perturbed. I'm not afraid because, as I said in my video, I'm a shaman and I work with the spirit world and the interdimensionals, but I've never had this sort of sustained poltergeist activity like we've had since, when Jared was here on Boxing Day. It was quite obvious too. So I don't feel under threat though, which is good, because if it was something malevolent, I'd be feeling like I'm under attack and really frightened. But it's someone with a fair bit of energy to lift. It's not that heavy, but it's silver plated little candle holder, so lifting things. Anyway, we'll carry on. Life goes on. Poltergeists, spirits, entities, fairy, jinn, angelics, drones in America, whatever energy is causing this to kind of manifest at the moment and become very heightened. We just have to learn to live with it in harmonic resonance, and as long as it's not causing any actual damage or harm to our body, minds and spirits, we just have to carry on, just like how I had to get used to having Sybil snake in my backyard for 12 days. That took me 4 days to adjust to the shock of that. So it's all good, people of Earth. Anyway, I'll carry on reading this story. I want to finish it off, and then I can say I've achieved that mission today at least. So we got cut off just when he was saying the surgeon was saying he would keep the princess's presence secret in the sarai, in the caravan crossing wherever they were in Arabia, am I right? and he's wanting to return her to Prince Khudadad's mother, knowing that she'll be taken care of until such time as he reappears from wherever they think he's gone. Accordingly, the leech rode on leisurely for the city, and on the road he met a lady mounted upon a she-mule, whose housings were of the richest and finest, while behind her walked confidential servants, followed by a band of horsemen and foot soldiers and Habashi slaves. And as she rode along, the people formed espalier, standing on either side to salute her while she passed. The leech also joined the throng and made his obeisance, after which quoth he to a bystander, which was a darwesh, "Methinks this lady must be a queen?" "'Tis even so," quoth the other. "She is the consort of our sultan, and all the folk honour and esteem her, above her sister wives, for that in truth is the mother of Prince Khudadad, and of him thou surely hast heard." Hereupon the surgeon accompanied the cavalcade, and when the lady dismounted at a cathedral mosque, and gave alms of ashrafis and gold coins to all around, for the king had enjoined her that until Khudadad's return she should deal charity to the poor with her own hand, and pray for the youth's being restored to his home in peace and safety. The mediciner also mingled with the throng, which joined in supplications for their favourite, and whispered to a slave, saying, "O my brother, it behoveth me that I make known without stay or delay to Queen Firuzah a secret which is with me." Replied he, "An it be aught concerning Prince Khudadad, 'tis well. The king's wife will surely give ear to thee, but an it be other, thou wilt hardly win a hearing, for that she is distraught by the absence of her son, and careth not for aught beside." The surgeon, still speaking low, made reply, "My secret concerneth that which is on her mind." "If this be so," returned the slave, "do thou follow her train privily till it arrive at the palace gate." Accordingly, when the lady Firuzah reached her royal apartments, the man made petition to her, saying, "A stranger would fain tell somewhat to thee in private." And she deigned give permission and command, exclaiming, "'Tis well, let him be brought hither." Hereupon the slave presented to her the surgeon, whom the queen, with gracious mien, bade approach, and he, kissing ground between her hands, made his petition in these words: "I have a long tale to tell thy highness, whereat thou shalt greatly marvel." Then he described to her Khudadad's condition, the villainy of his brothers and his death at their hands, and of his corpse having been carried off by wild beasts. Queen Firuzah, hearing of her son's murder, fell straightway swooning to the ground, as you would, and the attendants ran up and, raising her, besprinkled her face with rose water until she recovered sense and consciousness. Then she gave orders to the surgeon, saying, "Hie thee straightway to the Princess of Daryabar, and convey to her greetings and expressions of sympathy both from myself and from his sire." And as the leech departed, she called to mind her son and wept with sore weeping. By chance the Sultan, who was passing by that way, seeing Firuzah in tears and sobs and breaking out into sore and bitter lamentation, asked of her the reason thereof. She told him all she had heard from the leech, and her husband was filled with hot wrath against his sons. So he rose up and went straightway to the audience chamber, where the townsfolk had gathered together to petition him and to pray for justice and redress, and they, seeing his features working with rage, were sore afraid. Presently the Sultan seated himself on the throne of his kingship and gave an order to his Grand Wazir, saying, "O Wazir Hassan, take with thee 1,000 men of the guard, which keepeth watch and ward over the palace, and do thou bring hither the 49 princes, my unworthy sons, and cast them into the prison appointed unto manslayers and murderers, and have a heed that none of them escape." The Wazir did as he was bidden, and seizing the princes one and all, cast them into jail with the murderers and other criminals, then reported his action to his liege lord. Hereat the Sultan dismissed sundry claimants and suppliants, saying, "For the space of one full-told month henceforth it besitteth me not to sit in the justice hall. Depart hence, and, when the 30 days shall have passed away, do ye return hither again." After this, rising from the throne, he took with him the Wazir Hassan, and entering the apartment of Queen Firuzah, gave command to the minister that he bring in all haste and with royal state and dignity from the caravanserai the Princess of Daryabar and the Medicina. The Wazir straightway took horse, accompanied by the emirs and soldiers, and, leading a fine white she-mule, richly adorned with jewelled trappings from out of the royal stables, he rode to the caravanserai wherein abode the Princess of Daryabar. Having told her all that the king had done, he seated her upon the animal, and mounting the surgeon upon a steed of Turcoman blood, all three proceeded with pomp and grandeur to the palace. The shopkeepers and townsfolk ran out to greet the lady as the cavalcade, wound its way through the streets. And when they heard say that she was the wife of Prince Khudadad, they rejoiced with exceeding joy, for that they should now receive tidings of his whereabouts. As soon as the procession reached the palace gates, the Princess of Daryabar saw the Sultan, who had come forth to greet her, and she alighted from the mule and kissed his feet. The king then raised her by the hand and conducted her to the chamber wherein sat Queen Firuzah, awaiting her visit, and all three fell on one another's necks, and wept sore, and could on no wise control their grief. But whenas their sorrow was somewhat assuaged, the Princess of Daryabar said to the king, "O my lord the Sultan, I would prefer humble petition that full vengeance may fall upon those, one and all, by whom my husband hath been so foully and cruelly murdered." Replied the king, "O my lady, rest assured, that I will assuredly put to death all those villains in requital for the blood of Khudadad. Presently adding, "'Tis true that the dead body of my brave son hath not been found, still it seemeth but right to me that a tomb be built, a cenotaph, whereby his greatness and goodness may be held in everlasting remembrance." Thereupon he summoned the Grand Wazir and bade that a great mausoleum of white marble be edified amiddlemost the city, and the minister straightway appointed workmen and made choice of a suitable spot in the very centre of the capital. So there they built a gorgeous cenotaph crowned with a noble dome, under which was sculptured a figure of Khudadad, and when the news of its completion reached the king, he appointed a day for ceremonious mourning and perlections of the Koran. At the appointed time and term, the townsfolk gathered together to see the funeral procession and the obsequies for the departed, and the Sultan went in state to the mausoleum together with all the wazirs, the emirs, and the lords of the land, and took seat upon carpets of black satin, purfled with flowers of gold, which were dispread over the marble floor. After a while, a bevy of knights rode up, with downcast heads and half-closed eyes, and twice circuiting the dome, they halted the third time in front of the door, and cried out aloud, "O Prince, O son of our Sultan, could we, by the sway of our good swords and the strength of our gallant arms, restore thee to life, nor heart nor force would fail us in the endeavour, but before the fiat of Almighty Allah all must bow the neck." When the horsemen rode away to the palace whence they came, followed by 100 hermits, hoar of head and dwellers of the caves, who had passed their lives in solitude and abstinence, nor ever held converse with man or womankind, neither did they appear in Haran at any time, save for the obsequies of the reigning race. In front came out of these in front came one of these grey beards, steadying, oh, it's actually quite blurry, with one hand a huge and ponderous tome, which he bore upon his head. Presently all the holy men thrice compassed the mausoleum. Then standing on the highway, the eldest cried with a loud voice, "O Prince, could we, by dint of orisons and devotions, bring thee back to life, these hearts and souls of ours would be devoted to quickening thee, and on seeing thee arise once again, we would wipe thy feet with our own age-white beards." And when they also retired came 100 maidens of wondrous beauty and loveliness, mounted on white barbs, whose saddles were richly embroidered and set with jewels. Their faces were bare, and on their heads they bore golden canisters filled with precious stones, rubies, and diamonds. They also rode in circuit round the cenotaph, and, halting at the door, the youngest and fairest of them, speaking in the name of her sisterhood, exclaimed, "O Prince, could our youth and our charms avail thee aught, we would present ourselves to thee and become thy handmaids. But alas, thou knowest full well that our beauties are here, all in vain, nor can our love now warm thy clay." Then they also departed, in the deepest grief. As soon as they had disappeared, the Sultan and all with him rose up and walked thrice round the figure that had been set up under the dome. Then, standing at its feet, the father said, "O my beloved son, enlighten these eyes which tears for the stress of separation have thus bedimmed." He then wept bitterly, and all his ministers and courtiers and grandees joined in his mourning and lamentations, and, when they had made an end of the obsequies, the Sultan and his suite returned palacewards, and the door of the dome was locked. The Sultan commanded congregational prayers in all the mosques for a full 12 weeks, and he ceased not to mourn and weep and wail before the cenotaph of his son for 8 days. And as soon as this term was past, he commanded the Grand Wazir that vengeance be meted out for the murder of Prince Khudadad, and that the princes be brought out from their dungeons and be done to death. The tidings were bruited about the city, and preparations were made for executing the assassins, and crowds of folk collected to gaze upon the scaffold, when suddenly came a report that an enemy whom the king had routed in bygone times was marching upon the city with a conquering army. Hereat the Sultan was sore troubled and perplexed, and the ministers of state said one to other, "Alas, had Prince Khudadad been on life, he would forthwith have put to flight the forces of the foe, however fierce and fell." Nathless, the sovereign set out from the city with his suite and host, and eke he made ready for flight to some other land by way of the river, should the enemy's force prove victorious. Then the two powers met in deadly combat, and the invader, surrounding the king of Haran's many on every side, would have cut him to pieces with all his warriors, when, behold, an armed force, hitherto unseen, rode athwart the plain at a pace so swift and so sure that the two hostile kings gazed upon them in uttermost amazement, nor wist any one whence that host came. But when it drew near, the horsemen charged home on the enemies, and in the twinkling of an eye brought them to flight. Then, hotly pursuing, felled them with the biting sword and the piercing spear. Seeing this onslaught, the king of Haran marvelled greatly, and, rendering thanks to heaven, said to those around him, "Learn ye the name of the captain of yonder host, who he may be, and whence came he?" But when all the foemen had fallen upon the field, save only a few who escaped hither and thither, and the hostile Sultan, who had been taken prisoner, the captain of the friendly forces returned from pursuit, well pleased to greet the king, and, lo and behold, as the twain drew near one to the other, the Sultan was certified that the captain was none other than his beloved child, Khudadad. Whilome lost and now found. Accordingly, he rejoiced with joy unspeakable that his enemy had thus been vanquished, and that he had again looked upon his son. It is such joy to look upon your progeny, especially after a long estrangement. Never mind. Mustn't think about that, must we? Last time it was because my daughter was in the UK for 3 years and there was a bit of an estrangement, not a very long one. After she came back, but I think this is a permanent estrangement this time. Why was I cursed with such unloving family? What did I do to deserve that, except stand in my own truth and my own authority and my own mana and my own spirit, body and mind? Oh, that's right. I failed to die yet again. Well, anyway, doesn't serve me. That wasn't poltergeist. I knocked something off. I think I did anyway. Where that went. It doesn't bear thinking about. I'm surrounded by beautiful friends who are loving to me, and that is a gift from the gods too. To you, my beautiful ones, who treat me with sweetness and kindness and are genuine. Now where were we? And again looked upon his son, Khudadad, who stood before him, alive and safe and sound, which is astonishing given he was stabbed and slashed at 20 times. "O my sire," presently exclaimed the prince, "I am he whom thou deemest to have been slain, but Allah Almighty hath kept me on life, that I might this day stand thee in good stead and destroy these thine enemies." "O my beloved son," replied the king, "surely I had despaired and never hoped again to see thee with these mine eyes." So father and son dismounted and fell upon each other's necks. "And," quoth the Sultan, clasping the youth's hand, "long since I have known of thy valiant deeds and how thou didst save thine ill-omened brothers from the hands of the man-devouring Abyssinian, and of the evil wherewith they requited thee. Go now to thy mother, of whom naught remaineth, through bitter tears for thee, save skin and bone. Be thou the first to gladden her heart, and give her the good tidings of this thy victory." As they rode along, the prince inquired of the Sultan, his sire, how he had heard tell of the Habashi and of the rescue of the princes from the cannibals' clutches. "Hath one of my brothers," added he, "informed thee of this adventure?" "Not so, O my son," replied the king, "not they, but the princess of Dalyabar told me the miserable tale thereof. She hath dwelt for many days with me, and 'twas she who first and foremost demanded vengeance for thy blood." When Khudadad heard that the princess his spouse was his father's guest, he rejoiced with exceeding joy and cried, "Suffer me first to see my mother, then will I go to the princess of Dalyabar." The king of Haran Herat struck off the head of his chief enemy and exposed it publicly throughout the streets of his capital, and all the people exulted mightily, not only at the victory, but also for the return of Khudadad safe and sound, and dancing and feasting were in every household. Presently, Queen Firuza and the Princess of Dalyabar presented themselves before the Sultan and offered their congratulations to him. Then they went to see Khudadad, both hand in hand, and the three, falling on one another's necks, wept for very joy. After this, the king and queen and daughter-in-law sat long conversing, and they marvelled much how Khudadad, albeit he was sorely gashed and pierced with the sword, had escaped alive from that wildest of wolds, whereupon the prince, at the bidding of his sire, told his tale in these words. A peasant mounted on a camel chanced to pass by my pavilion, and seeing me sore wounded and weltering in my blood, set me upon his beast and conveyed me to his house. Then, choosing some roots of desert herbs, he placed them on the hurts, so that they kindly healed. I like that. Kindly healed. And I speedily recovered strength. After returning thanks to my benefactor and giving him liberal largesse, I set out for the city of Haran, and on the road I saw the forces of the foe in countless numbers marching upon thy city. Wherefore I made the matter known to the folk of the townships and villages round about, and besought their aid. Then, collecting a large force, I placed myself at the head thereof, and arriving in the nick of time, destroyed the invading hosts. Hereupon, the Sultan gave thanks to Allah Almighty and said, Let all the princes who conspired against thy life be put to death, and sent forthright for the sworder of his vengeance. But Khudadad made request to his sire and said, In good sooth, O my lord the king, we all deserve the doom thou hast ordained, yet be not these my brethren, and eke thine own flesh and blood? I have freely forgiven them their offence against me, and I humbly pray thy pardon also, that thou grant them their lives, for that blood ever calleth unto blood. A truly good man. Those 49 brothers tried to kill him, and yet he was willing to forgive them. It does make me a little bit ashamed that I'm unwilling to forgive the last of my bloodlines, my half-sister, but well, I don't actually hate her or anything. It's just more kind of a pity that she couldn't have been a more upright and moral person. She used to yell in my face, when I was a young mother in my 20s, with my children. She'd say, I'm a person of high calibre, very high calibre, very high calibre. You'll ruin my reputation if you speak out about the child's sexual abuse. You'll destroy my career. I'm of high calibre. No, she was merely a coward. So I don't hate her really, because I understand her own trauma issues were immense, and she chose to align with the oppressors, as often happens with trauma survivors actually. It's kind of a Stockholm syndrome, and it's evil and it's ugly, but it's a manifestation of that abuse. So I guess in a way, being able to academically intellectualise it the way I just did, that's as close to forgiveness as I'm willing to give to her, at least today, after all these many, many years. She declared me dead in 2012. Oh, the irony. Well, dead sisters don't cry, and dead sisters still eat cake. In fact, I'll be eating my cake probably tomorrow. That pavlova that I bought a week ago and nobody seemed to want pavlova, all the visitors, so I'm stuck with it. That's no great hardship. I like pavlova. Just eating a whole one might not be such a great idea, but it is what it is, people of Earth. The Sultan at length consented and forgave their offence. Then, summoning all the ministers, he declared Khudadad his heir and successor in the presence of the princes whom he bade bring from the prison house. Khudadad caused their chains and fetters to be stricken off and embraced them one by one, showing them, the same fondness and affection as he had shown to them in the castle of the cannibal Habashi. All the folk, on hearing of this noble conduct of Prince Khudadad, raised shouts of applause and loved him yet more than before. The surgeon who had done such good service to the Princess of Daryabar received a robe of honour and much wealth, and on this wise that which began with mishap had issue in all happiness. Then quoth Scheherazade, "It is well nigh dawn, but, if my life be spared, I will tell thee on the morrow a strange and wonderful history of Aladdin and the Wonderful Lamp," which I had half read but lost it when I had to factory reset my laptop, so we'll have to start that from the very beginning sometime in the near future. It's fairly exhausted. It may not happen tomorrow. So anyway, thus concludes part 3 of Khudadad and his brothers, and I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll speak to you very soon, no doubt, people of Earth, my YouTube subscribers. I've noticed I've had a few subscribers unsubscribe, one again tonight, but I think the bulk of those subscribers subscribed because I was showing videos of my Sybil snake, and sorry guys, but I can't live with snakes at my back door 24/7, 365 days of the year, so the rest of the year it's me with my mad ramblings and musings and health issues that someone else complained about. Move on, keep rolling on, babies. And my spiritual, events or interferences or anomalies, and my fairy stories. So anyway, those that unsubscribe that are still watching, thank you for your support, and I appreciate it. I don't get paid for giving out all my personal life histories and stories, by the way. And you're certainly not a prisoner of my love, so hello, goodbye, I love you. And those of you who have still stayed subscribed, thank you for your support also. And we're on this journey through whirling in a little blue marble planet, whirling through space together, and it's getting pretty weird. It's sacred space lately, in the previous week. I wonder if anyone else is experiencing an increase of spiritual activity. I think it's because of all the hysteria that's been built up about the drones and the UFOs, but it's possible that there's a tear in the space-time continuum, in the fabric of space. CERN's constantly smashing particles together, and if they've ripped a hole in the fabric of space-time, it's quite possible that we are getting more spiritual activity from the interdimensional ones, because our worlds are merging closer and closer together, and in my case, I've kind of, communicated with those worlds for decades, so it's not absolutely ridiculous or surprising that they might manifest around me, especially as I get older and, either more powerful magically or frailer physically, given how I feel in any given time and any day. So it's not it's nothing to be concerned about. I'm not demonic and I'm not under demonic attack yet. If you hear me screaming, I need an old priest and a young priest, then I think then I might you might worry. But no, I feel that the house is calm apart from that one little bit of nonsense, and I do sense that there is a presence around, and it's male, but it's kind of keeping his distance now. He knows he rattled me a bit, so he's just kind of observing more than rather impeding on my energy, which I'm fine with that, as long as they don't try and take you over or invade your body or mind or spirit, and can't do much about the voyeurs from the other dimensions or the watchers. And sometimes they can actually be angelic protectors, so again, I'm not bothered by that. So, Lila Tov, good evening, good night from Brisbane, Australia. Wherever you are on planet Earth, have a beautiful day, night, evening, morning, afternoon, and stay true to your beloved ones and stay in love with your little patch of earth wherever your feet are touching the ground, or if you're out there on the oceans, or if you're an aircraft or UAP. G'day, mate. Let there be peace in all the worlds, in all dimensions, echelons, paradigms, but more and more necessary and importantly, right here, right now on planet Earth, and let us say Amen. So, happy Hanukkah, people of Earth, and tomorrow, Happy New Year, 2025. I think it's going to be awesome, actually. For me personally, I feel like it's going to be my year at long last, the year I've been waiting for, to have all my dreams and aspirations come true. Of course, they're not going to come true in the first few weeks of the new year. They'll have to surprise me as the months go by, but I just feel this morning it was like being high on some kind of substance, but I don't use drugs, or I don't let drugs use me, more to the point. So it was beautiful, but then by about 4 p.m. I was quite tired, and I pushed ahead with these videos, and now I'm really tired. But I've had a lovely day, and I'm grateful and I'm happy and really appreciative of the support I'm receiving at the moment from my gorgeous beloved ones. So on that note, good night. Titania's realm on planet Earth, the Milky Way galaxy, etc., etc., etc.